Hello and welcome to New Beginnings podcast with Michelle. And we have a guest today. We're traveling. I am so happy to have you on here. We at New Beginnings podcast are so thrilled that so many people have been listening in. So many people have been sharing their comments on the podcast so far. 2023 we started off with financial planning, and I do hope people are still working on it. If you haven't done it before, make sure you're looking at your finances and budgeting, and you want to make sure that you are able to understand 2023 we're saving money, right? Okay, so today we at New Beginnings are dealing with a new season. We in February
Right.
2023, and we would like to share about relationships. So we know functional well-being is all about looking at how we can enhance our well-being, and through our podcast, New Beginnings podcast, we are sharing ways you can enhance your well-being. Last month we did finances. This month, February, we are dealing with relationships. How can we enhance our relationships, which would then in turn help us to enhance our well-being, total well-being. And today we introduce someone who is very versed in this field. Her name is Miss Beth Stiers. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good. And we are going to have a lot of questions for Miss Beth. This month we are considering about relationship, and in particular we are considering family relationship, husband and wife couple relationship. And she's the expert. I'm married, she's married, but she's the expert. She's the counselor, okay? She's a marriage counselor here in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Right.
And how much years now?
I've been there 30 years.
30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, without further ado, Beth, welcome to New Beginnings podcast.
Thank you very much.
And share with us a little bit of your story. Who are you?
Okay. I am Beth Stiers. I work with Eagle Creek Counseling Services, and I've been marriage and family therapist for 30 years. I work with anxiety, phobias, marriages. I work with grief. I work with all kinds of areas, children and adults, and have enjoyed it, love doing it, and am going to continue to do it.
Yeah, so anxiety, grief, adults, children, that's a wide range of people
Yes.
and scope
Yes.
of counseling. Give us just a brief definition of what you consider counseling to be.
Okay. For me, counseling is that I am a Christian, and I work with my faith with my clients, and I also, counseling would be helping someone going through those difficult times, those stepping stones to try to make it to the place they want to be, so that they feel best about themselves.
Okay. So in particular, we are considering marriage counseling.
Right.
So in the field of marriage counseling, what would be an avenue that you would consider with a couple?
Okay. One of the biggest ones is communication.
Communication.
And in communication, there are several different areas that we would need to talk about. And when a couple comes into me, then we discuss where they are in their marriage at the time. And usually it's not very good at that moment. They're not very happy. So I may get one side, one spouse comes in, the other one doesn't want to come in. Then I get one that they both will come in, and I work with however I can, whatever person comes in, because I work under the family system. So if one person comes into my office, then that person is going to change their family system, even though someone else isn't in the office with us.
So when you say family system, what do you mean?
We all are within a family system, as in when we grow up, we're in our family of origin. And in our
Okay.
family of origin, we have parents, depending on what your background and history is, that is your start in life and where
Mhm.
you learn to communicate. Once you have your communication skills taught to you,
Mhm.
then you can develop them more. But within that family system, let's say one person is not doing well. Let's say a mom is not doing well. She's
Mhm.
struggling.
Mhm.
So she wants to go to counseling. If she goes to counseling and she starts getting better or she starts changing, then everyone else will end up either changing, and I say changing, but developing in a different way or
Okay.
growing.
Uh-huh.
So not necessarily change.
Right.
We're not trying to just make everything different. But if
Right.
they start to feel better, maybe they're less angry or less upset or
Mhm.
work with their children in a different way in their communication. And
Okay.
so they're able to be more relaxed. And
Mhm.
so they can process things about themselves.
Okay.
Once they do that, better for the communication within the couple.
Mhm.
And so as that couple is able to communicate, they can develop their relationship even further.
Okay. So we considering communication as a key component
Mm-hmm.
in family relationship,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
One of the verses in the Bible that we considered together as important was that of Ephesians 5:21.
Mm-hmm.
Submitting yourself one to another in the fear of God.
Yes.
And in general, what or how would you interpret that verse
Okay.
for a family system?
Okay. The family system starts with the parents.
Okay.
And so, and hopefully they incorporate God in that, and God is
Mhm.
number one, and then the marriage is number two.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that, the husband is to submit to the wife is to submit to the husband, because if you are submitting to each other, and that word submit is an issue because everyone
Yeah.
thinks submit is a problem,
Yes.
but submit can be different than what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Submit means you care about that person. You're going to want their well-being over your own. And
Right.
so if their well-being is taken care of, then you're going to feel better, they're going to feel better, and the whole family system is moving towards some goals. So it's not that one submits to the other and the other one doesn't submit. It is you do it with both.
Right. So when you said submit, the thing that kind of sparked my interest was caring for each other's well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not one person caring alone.
No.
It's both individuals.
Right. Exactly.
And then when you think of it, not just the husband and wife, but if you have a family of kids and
mm-hmm.
grandparents
Mm-hmm.
living in the house, you need to care for everybody.
Right.
Everybody needs to submit to some extent.
Right.
Oh boy. Okay,
Which becomes overwhelming for people.
yes.
And then when they get overwhelmed, they have a hard time communicating, and when they can't communicate or they're afraid to communicate because of their family of origin or they didn't learn good communication skills, then that's where we come in and try to help them with the therapy on helping them communicate with one another.
Okay. Ooh. That's a lot right there. Okay, so when we consider family, we're looking at husband and wife.
Hmm?
And we also considering we must have that trust in God
Yes.
to bind us together
Mm-hmm.
in the first place, or allowing us to submit to each other
Mm-hmm. And trust in one another.
and trust in one another.
Mm-hmm.
For us to be able to communicate with each other, what would you say are some key factors to help us communicate with each other better?
Knowing how you communicate would be one way,
Mm-hmm.
because some people back off when they hear conflict. They get scared, they move away.
Mm-hmm.
Others, if there's conflict, they move toward it.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing your own conflict style, knowing your own desire of what you want as your goal
Mm-hmm.
to get past some of the stuff that I can't stand you, you're just being mean to me, you're just being upset with me for no reason. There are a lot of factors that fill in there.
Yes.
And depending, like we're going to talk later on family of origin.
Mm-hmm.
So in that family of origin, you see how your parents are
Right.
communicating.
Right.
And when you see that, we copy that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So when we copy that, then we take it into our marriage. And so we need to be able to understand what we're copying or what we have been modeled so that we can maybe change it a little bit or create a better pattern for ourselves in the way we communicate. And back in the beginning, when I first started working, communication was a big thing, and men and women communicate differently. God has given us different ways to communicate.
Hear that? We
different ways.
communicate differently. So it's not wrong. Nobody's wrong. It's
No.
we communicate differently. Men communicate a different way than women.
And
So
I
don't
see
get
it-
mad at each other.
I see it as a balance because God has given men a certain way and given women a certain way. So if you think about it, your husband, maybe he watches television and he's not listening to you and you're mad because he's not listening to you. In my own history, my husband was like, well, why aren't you just coming over and sitting down and watching television? And so I said, I can hear everything that's on television and I can follow that and I can be ironing, I can be doing whatever I need to do
Yes.
and do 4 or 5 tasks at one time. Now getting older, I'm not as good at that.
Right.
But when I was younger, I could do that.
Right.
So, but men aren't able to do that multitasking typically. Some are, but not all. And so they are focused on the goal.
Right.
And their goal is
watching TV.
watching that show, or if their work getting interrupted during their work, then they're not able to focus as well. And so for us, when we do multitasking, it's better to be pulled back sometimes. We don't have to be doing every single thing, but we do.
Yes.
And it's only in our own minds, basically. The husband is typically not wanting us to, you have to do all these things. Some will, but many are more just wanting to spend time with you, or more just let's just have fun together. They would rather do fun together,
Right.
and the house can go away or whatever. And
Right. So for me as a lady who always think I need to have all these things done, the guy doesn't think that way. He's like, no, I just want to watch TV.
Right.
Okay.
But when I got married, my family of origin, we always had dinner. Mother would usually fix it. It was a meat, a potato or something, and a vegetable, and we'd usually have some kind of bread. My parents, that's what they always did. So I assumed we needed to do that. Well, that wasn't the best for my husband because that's a lot of food.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that, but that's a lot of food. So he was like, we don't need to have such big meals at every meal. So there are just differences we bring in.
Right.
And so that communication, you have to let the other person know what you're thinking because they cannot read your mind.
True.
And that is one of the
That's
biggest things
huge
that they try.
Because I would say, I would be speaking to my mom and I may not even have to say a word and she knows exactly what I'm saying.
That's right.
And then my husband will look at me like, I don't know what you're saying. You need to talk to me.
That's
so
exactly
you need to communicate.
Yes.
So we see in here that communication is a key factor in a relationship.
Right.
And understanding that when you're in a relationship, you have to learn to communicate.
Yes. Yes.
And there are many different communication styles.
Right. There are.
And it's understanding which ones are necessary in your particular relationship.
That's right. Each one is going to be different.
Okay. Woo! This is a lot right here.
Yeah, it will not be solved.
It's not going to be solved in one go. No way. No. So, I'm going to use your family as an example. And you said, for instance, dinner. You used your way of doing dinner before.
Right.
And brought it into your house, your current home.
Right.
And you saw, your husband saying that this is not something he wanted.
Right.
Was that something taken negative to you at first?
At first it was, well, I'm doing all this for you and you don't want it. And so, but after that, and I realized what was going on, it was like, hey, that probably is a lot of food for two of us. My mother was cooking for four, so
right,
she was having extra food for four. I get that now.
Right.
But, but then my husband's family, I had the privilege of living with my in-laws for 10 months when my husband worked in Indianapolis and they were in Anderson.
Okay.
So I got to know his family pretty well, living with them.
Yes.
So his dad was a construction manager, worker, and so the mom would have one big huge meal and like spaghetti, big pot, and that's what she'd have, and then they'd eat all that and they'd be done.
Oh.
But it was just, she had to come up with a lot because they had 3 boys and it was 5 of them, and my mother had 2 girls, so it was like, there's a difference there too.
Yes.
And where you fall in that family system, there's a big difference.
Right. So family system is an important concept, and we will break that down a little bit more in our next episode.
Right. So him telling me that, this is what it was, that was an easy one. There are other things that didn't go so well because for me, in my family system, my parents never raised their voice. My parents were teachers.
Okay.
His father did raise his voice.
Right.
I mean, construction worker, you're telling people what to do. It's loud, and so he did do that. So my husband was used to that, and so his way of working through conflict was either to just be silent because he didn't want to yell or didn't want to get upset, and then I wouldn't know what was going on or anything like that, and he would expect me to know something and do it this way without being told. I was used to, both parents, teachers, explain it first, then do it. So we worked through that, but that's a big communication issue.
How long you think that took you all to?
Oh, we're still doing that.
Okay.
After 38 years, we're still working
after
on it.
38 years. So don't expect people that things will work out in the first 2-3 weeks.
No.
Or first year or 3 years of marriage. It's something that is a continuum. It's continuous.
Right.
But it's good to know.
Yes. Yeah, the more you can know about yourself, the better and more healthy you'll become.
Yes, so you have to first start with self before you even try fixing somebody else.
And we're not going to fix them.
No, we can't fix anybody.
It's more of an acceptance of understanding of who they are. And
I hope you're writing, because I'm writing.
Willing to understand them and accept that you may need to back off or change the way you approach them in your communication style, but it will be your responsibility to do that, not theirs. Once you do in that family system, if you work through that with them and you do start doing a little changing, a little difference in the way you react and respond, then they're going to have to react and respond differently too.
Okay. One thing I've realized is you have to relearn something.
Yes, you do.
You have no choice but to relearn concepts of living with your spouse.
Right.
Oh,
and it doesn't necessarily, and that relearning can be a good growth, and that's also the more you learn and grow together, the closer you can become.
Yes.
And many times the problem is people either are afraid to put that work in, haven't seen a good role model, or don't know how to do it.
Right.
And if they can know how to do that, they can become healthier.
Oh wow, guys, this is really good because it does help to understand where you are at the relationship in your family. and knowing how to communicate plays a huge role in understanding where your family is going to go.
Right. Exactly.
Because it can speak to if you even stay married. Because I saw one of your statistics was like in 2019 you had like 2 million marriages.
Yes.
Of which 747,000
end in divorce.
That's a lot of people.
Yes, it is.
If I go to the equations, like little Eddie doing fractions right now, so
right.
That's nearly half.
Right. Yeah, it is. And that's been pretty consistent.
Oh wow.
Divorces, yes.
So we need to put in the work, people. Getting married is one thing, but learning your new family system, because this is you creating a new family system, we have to put in the work. But it also says you put in the work, but it's a slow process. It's not something that happens just like that. Like for me, I'm pretty much task oriented and I like to get my task finished. My husband is not the same.
Right.
And it doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but it means that now I have to know how to balance that off in terms of, okay, yes, I want the dishes done when I get home.
Yes.
But he's like, I don't care about the dishes. I just want to sit down and watch football.
That's right.
Because I'm done working. I don't want to go work again.
That's right. That's what he's thinking, yeah.
And I'm thinking, it's not work. It's just something that needs to be done.
Right.
So we are both not wrong. It's just how we perceive it.
A different style, yes.
Different way, yes. Hi. Okay. I know I have work to do. And I just felt overwhelmed. But I think it can be done.
It can be done.
I think it can be done.
Many people do, and yeah.
But you have to be, don't be too hard on yourself though.
Correct.
I think that is huge for us to understand. Don't be hard on ourselves because we're not perfect. It never was perfect. At all. The only perfect being is God. So we have to understand that in the opportunity of having a relationship, learning how to relate to each other. And one of the main components is that of communication. As we continue on in the other episodes, we're going to break down communication a little bit more.
Right.
And go a little more in depth in considering the concept of communication in different levels. So the level of before you even got married to the point of in your marriage, as well as how do we try to attain a level of balance in our relationship. And we would talk a little bit more using examples of how we can do that. And I really do hope we help each other.
Sure.
Because she's helping me, I know that. With respect to relationships. And I know this month is, everybody lovey-dovey and all of that. So that's an example right there for me.
Okay.
In my culture, in my home system, we didn't celebrate Valentine's like that.
Right.
But then when I came here with my husband and in the U.S., that's a big thing. And I was like, you people crazy. I don't see the reason for this. But then after the years, I realized it's just part of this culture. And I have to, break it down a little bit. Don't be so harsh on the concept.
Right.
And learn to evolve around the concept.
Right.
And accept it. So I still have trouble
just to do it. Yeah.
But I have to really consciously think about it.
Yeah.
That Valentine's is something.
Sure.
It's holiday
Right.
in the U.S.
Yes. It has been added as a holiday.
Added
yes.
as a holiday, yes. So,
Mm-hmm.
you want to add any few last comments before we go on?
I think the next time we'll bring
Yes.
up many different things, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. Yay. So, remember this verse, guys. Ephesians 5:21. 5:21. It says, "Submit yourself one to another in the fear of God." Submit yourself one to another. Not one alone.
Right, exactly.
One to another in the fear of God.
Right.
So we are trusting in God to guide our relationships.
Right.
And we are talking about marriage, but think about it this way: trusting in any relationship at all,
Yes.
we need to think God first, then relationship.
Yes.
And be able to understand it's through God we can perfect a relationship.
Sure.
Yeah? And for us to be able to do that, the most important thing is to communicate. So we're
Yes.
communicating right here, and this is a relationship right here.
Right.
So we have to consider that same thing in our marriage. Yeah? And for us to be able to be on the same terms, we have to ask questions, because I'm
Right.
learning from her. So,
Right.
so, and she's learning from me,
Right.
my example. So
Right.
I am trusting her. So we have to do the same thing in our relationships.
Exactly.
Trust each other. And we will talk a little bit more about this. I really truly hope you glean information from this episode. And as we go forward, we look forward to answering any of your questions. If you have any questions on relationship building and relationship in general, we at New Beginnings Podcast, the affirmation this year is, I am willing. I am willing to change. I am willing and ready to change my, in this case, my relationship with my spouse.
Okay.
So it's something that you have to affirm and talk about it and want to do it. And I'm willing. And I'm willing to do that through learning more about how to be a better communicator in my relationship. So thank you so much for listening in. We look forward to talking to you again and sharing more gems for you. This is New Beginnings Podcast with Michelle, and today with Miss Beth. Have a great day and talk to you guys soon.